Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on Introduction to Co-Browsing. Really happy to have all of you with us and really excited to talk about the technology that means a lot to us here at SailMove. So before we begin, let me quickly go over the agenda to give you the lay of the land in terms of what we'll be covering today. We'll begin first by giving a brief introduction to not only myself, but also SailMove, for those of you out there who may be a little unfamiliar with what we do as a company. We'll then talk a little bit about the current landscape of business and how it's changing very quickly. We'll then dive into talking about co-browsing, first by defining it, then talking about its evolution and where it's come from and where we believe it's going. We'll then talk to you a little bit about why your company should think about offering co-browsing and the benefits that you may see. We'll then talk a little bit about some questions that you should be asking when you're out there analyzing and choosing a co-browsing solution. And finally, we'll talk about how you can get a little bit more out of co-browsing. And we'll leave about 5 minutes or so at the end of the webinar for a brief Q&A. So my name is Jeffrey Mack. I'm the head of marketing here at SailMove, and I've been lucky and fortunate enough in my career to have held several positions where I've been able to really be a proponent for the customer experience. And it's the customer experience that's really important and sort of serves as our true north here at SailMove in terms of building solutions that enable companies to go about and improve it. So a little bit about SailMove for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with what we do here. So at SailMove, we create omnichannel customer engagement solutions that enable enterprises to do pretty much three things really well. The first is around identification and segmentation of their real-time website visitors. Second is bringing multiple communication channels into a single platform for creating seamless engagements between companies and their customers. And finally, we offer a really robust visual engagement solution that enables companies to empower their representatives and essentially gives a sight to representatives to put themselves and the customers on the same page, literally. So our mission here at SailMove is to meet or exceed the in-person customer experience online. What we essentially do is we eliminate what we call digital dead ends. These are points in the customer's online journey where perhaps they get stuck. So either they're looking for support, they've hit a dead end, they don't know what to do next. We eliminate them by offering human assistance pretty much at the click of a single button. So diving into the bulk of our presentation here, before we start talking about co-browsing, I think it's important that we start talking about the business landscape and how it's changed. We've gone even just a few years ago from what was essentially a analog or phone-centric world where a lot of business and support was done with the phone in mind or with people walking into physical stores or bank branches, to a place now where it's a very digital-centric. On the support side, this means that customer representatives are manning multiple channels to provide support to their customers. And really, a lot of the business that was traditionally taking place in store is now taking place online. In fact, in 2016, we saw for the first time that digital customer interactions or engagements surpassed phone engagements or interactions for the first time. So this monumental shift away from sort of what we would say was old business or old ways of interacting with the brand to this new sort of digital era where customer expectations are extremely high and business communication, research, transactions are all really taking place online. So a very, very different world today. And companies, for their part, really need to, if they haven't already done so, shift their mindset away from sort of the old analog way of doing business and towards this digital centric or digital first way of doing business and engaging with their customers. So, as I had said, in this new sort of age, customer expectations are at the highest that they've ever been. These customers are doing more and more of the research on their own, and they expect to easily find what they're looking for when they're dealing with a specific brand or company or product online. In terms of the patience that they show when expecting support, they don't have very much. A lot of today's consumers expect immediate support. And they also expect a high degree of personalization because consumers are giving us so much of their data online. They really do have an expectation that companies are going to leverage that data to essentially provide a more personalized experience when engaging with them. And they also want to get their questions answered very quickly and want their engagements to be short and to the point. So just some statistics that sort of back up this new area of digital-centric business that we're seeing. McKinsey and Company did a survey recently where they found that 75% of online customers expect help within 5 minutes. So again, showing that patience is dwindling. 70% of the buying experiences are based on how customers feel they're being treated. So again, highlighting the importance of the customer experience and its place where it's essentially overtaken price as a key consideration when deciding whether or not to buy. Customer experience will overtake price and product as the key brand differentiator by the year 2020. This is from a recent report by Walker. So all of those statistics and sort of all of the things that we just talked about really highlight and paint a picture of this really digital first, digital centric landscape where consumers and companies are now interacting and engaging in brand new ways. So when we talk about the importance of customer experience, we find companies really rushing to deliver a better customer experience. And one of the most common ways that they're doing so is by leveraging technology. So a lot of these companies are going out there, they're looking for new technologies that can help them improve the customer experience or help them improve the way that they speak or communicate with their customers. And one of the technologies that we think is one of the most effective is a technology called CoBrowsing. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with CoBrowsing, I think it's best to sort of pause and define what CoBrowsing is and how we at SaleMove define it. So CoBrowsing is actually a shortened form of the word collaborative web browsing. Typically, it involves multiple cursors on your computer screen in your web browser, and more times than not, they'll actually be labeled. So you'll see your cursor, and you'll see another cursor, which in many cases is going to be a customer support representative for a company that you're engaging with on their site. And that label will be labeled as well, either operator or representative, something of that sort. The reason for the labeling is to make sure that there's no confusion over which cursor is moving where and which cursor is doing what. Now, co-browsing, I think it's important to note, only works on specific web pages within a company's website where it's been enabled. This isn't a technology that's going to span across the internet. So as a visitor to a website, if you're engaging in co-browsing, you don't necessarily have to worry about that company following you to a different website or following you around the internet. They're only going to be able to assist you on their website on the pages where they've enabled co-browsing. And co-browsing requires an opt-in, so they're not going to be able to start co-browsing with you unless you grant them permission. So what we find is that by having this co-browsing option, these companies are able to create much deeper levels of engagement than they've ever had before. And the big reason for that is because they have a visual component or visual context that's going to enable them to really get on the same page with you immediately so that they can provide more efficient, more accurate, and better customer support. So when we talk about co-browsing, I think it is important to talk about the evolution to firmly understand sort of the origins of co-browsing and where it came from, where we are today with co-browsing technology and where we feel co-browsing technology is going to move going forward. So co-browsing, and it probably will come as no surprise, but co-browsing essentially came out of screen sharing technology. So I'm sure a lot of you out there remember the days where you were able to essentially share your screen or have somebody share their screen with you. This was a very one-way engagement, and it was really visual. There wasn't a lot of stuff you could do. So you could see maybe a company representative's screen so that they can verbally talk you around the screen, or you can share your screen with somebody so that they can get a sense of the issues that you're having or essentially where you are on the website. But again, it was one way and it required downloads from both parties. So each person would have to download a plugin, they'd have to install the plugin, and they'd have to essentially run the plugin for this one-way screen sharing to take place. So as companies started to use this screen sharing, they quickly found the limitations within it. Obviously, it was better than having no visual context, but it was a pure visual tool that did require a lot of explaining and did require sort of a cumbersome process of downloading to get it to work. So at that point, the screen sharing essentially evolved into sort of the first iteration of co-browsing. This iteration of co-browsing was built around Java, and it still required a download. However, this new technology here differed in screen sharing in that it really offered a two-way engagement option. You were able to see the screen, but also interact on the screen with somebody, whether it be a customer service representative, or someone else. So a big sort of step forward in sort of the evolution of screen sharing was this Java-based co-browsing. The issues with the Java-based co-browsing, however, were really essentially around speed. Because it was essentially just sending pictures of the screen and mouse cursors back and forth in rapid succession, it was really dependent on the speed of both of your internet connections. And it did still require a download, so it was a little bit of a cumbersome process. But just as technology evolves and gets better, so did co-browsing. And we moved away from Java-based co-browsing, again requiring a download, to what's called DOM-based co-browsing that did not require a download at all. So the DOM-based co-browsing essentially leveraged your DOM, which is how a particular web page is rendered on your machine, and really sort of took co-browsing to the next level. The speed was much faster because it didn't necessarily rely so much on your internet speeds. The process was much smoother because there was no download required. So if you wanted to co-browse with a customer, you could do so almost instantaneously with the click of a single button. So the DOM-based co-browsing solution is essentially where we are today. There have been some strides in adding a few other tools such as annotations and file sharing and things of that sort. But where sort of co-browsing is going, and I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a singular path, I think we'll probably see two paths, is this idea of integrated co-browsing. And this is something at SailMove that we do and have a lot of customers leveraging. But this essentially allows the co-browsing functionality to exist in some of the other tools or solutions that you're currently using. So to give you an example, SailMove has integrated co-browsing that we call OmniBrowse. And this essentially allows SailMove's co-browsing technology to live within a company's CRM. So right now we have a bunch of customers who have our SailMove OmniBrowse co-browsing technology integrated directly into their Salesforce.com CRM solutions. So what that enables these companies to do is to use the same tools and software that they're currently using to support customers but to add the visual engagement or the visual context piece directly into that record. So, for example, if my colleague Julie were to call in for support, the customer service representative would, in most cases, pull up her customer record in Salesforce. And once they did so, if they scroll down a little bit in the record, they'll now be able to see Julie's browsing session and offer co-browsing directly in that record to help her either complete an application per se or find a resource on the site. So again, it's about still providing the visual context necessary to provide best-in-class customer support and experiences, but doing so in a solution that the representatives were already using. So one of the questions that we typically hear when we're talking to our customers about co-browsing is, why they should offer it. A lot of customers will say, well, we have a chat tool which enables us to provide adequate support, or, we do a really good job answering phone calls when they come in. But really, co-browsing is going to provide a big lift across the board on the quality of the customer experience. And it's also going to provide a big lift in the quality of the support that you're able to offer someone. It's really, it's really hard to say just how great having visual context is in a support scenario. But the reality is, if you're able to essentially see your customers' issues in real time before you support them, obviously you're going to provide much more efficient support that's going to lead to lower average handle time, less minutes, which is going to be cost savings across the board for these large companies. But 73% of consumers today are expecting customer service to be easier and more convenient. 61% expect service to be faster, and 83% of consumers who've left a particular company or service and switched to a competitor did so because they had a bad customer experience. So, we talked earlier about the changing landscape of business. We talked about the growing expectations of customers. We talked how these consumers today really are expecting a more personalized experience and faster, more efficient, and to the point service. And really, co-browsing is going to allow you to do all of that. The visual component of being able to, again, spot the issue ahead of time and provide support, not only verbally, but visually in real time, goes a long ways to, I'd say, not only meeting the customer expectations, but surpassing them. So when you're out there sort of evaluating and looking for co-browsing solutions, you'll find that there are numerous companies that offer numerous variations of co-browsing. Obviously, your selection process should stop at SaleMove. We have the best co-browsing technology out there, but there are key questions that you want to ask when you are evaluating solutions. The first question that I think is really important is asking whether co-browsing is a standalone tool. So, can I just use co-browsing by itself, or does it need to be used in conjunction with something else? So, the answer to that question really is, co-browsing is great, but it's not necessarily a standalone tool. So you'll want to use it in conjunction with another means of communication, whether that's web chat, telephone, web audio, video. Really, you want to make sure that in addition to visually being able to show your customers what they want to see, it does go a long way to be able to tell them and really have commentary around that engagement as well. The next question that you want to ask is, how easy is it to install the co-browsing solution? So in the case of SaleMove, our installation is actually extremely simple. It merely involves taking a snippet of JavaScript code and embedding it on the web pages or website that you want to enable co-browsing. In total, I mean, the process takes minutes to actually get on a page. So very, very simple on our side. Other companies that offer co-browsing solutions may not be as easy to install, and some of them will still actually be requiring downloads or installations. So very important to ask how easy it is to not only install the co-browsing solution, but get started. The next question that I think is important for everyone to ask is, does the solution offer live observation? So we haven't really talked about live observation so far, but let me take a minute to sort of explain what this feature is. So we discussed co-browsing being essentially a visual engagement tool. And we talked about co-browsing being a tool that enables two people to move their cursors and click on various parts of a web page together. Another component of co-browsing that some vendors do offer is something called live observation. What a live observation allows you to do is it allows you to select a visitor on your website and have instantaneous view into their browsing session. So you can see exactly what they're doing, what page they're on, if they're having an issue, if they're at a digital dead end. Having this live observation allows your representatives to spot the issue before having to support the issue. So when they do have to support it, they already have an idea of what they're looking to do and what the answer is. And it again is giving them the ability to provide more efficient, faster support. One thing to note about live observation is that we're not able to see everything on the screen. Companies that enable this feature do have the ability to essentially block out key parts of a site. So for example, if you have co-browsing enabled on, let's say, an online application, a company could decide that they don't want a representative to be able to see PII. So we won't be able to see things like social security numbers. We won't be able to see things like banking account numbers or routing numbers. So those can all be taken out and left so that they're not visible in live observation. So again, important to ask if the co-browsing solution offers a live observation feature. At SaleMove, we offer it, and it's been a very beneficial feature for a lot of our customers. And then a final question to ask when you're evaluating different solutions is whether or not the solution offers dual cursor control. So what does that mean? So in co-browsing, we have two labeled cursors that can move around on a screen. However, not all solutions enable both of those cursors to actually click buttons and navigate a site. At SaleMove, we do offer dual cursor control, which means that both cursors of both people who are browsing together will have the ability to scroll a web page, to click a button, to fill in a form. So it makes for a true guided experience. Definitely something to look for in a solution and a great question to ask when evaluating. So hopefully we've sort of painted a high-level picture of sort of the benefits of co-browsing and how it can improve the customer experience and allow businesses to provide better support, close more deals online by improving conversion. But how do you get more out of co-browsing? How can we take it a step further? So one of the questions that we just discussed around co-browsing being a standalone tool, and I had mentioned that co-browsing works best, obviously, when you couple it together with a communication channel. And that's exactly what we would recommend to get the most out of co-browsing. So if you were to take co-browsing and use it in conjunction with web chat, we found with our customers, they've seen a 69% lift in online conversion. So they've been able to get more people through either an application online or through a purchase just by using co-browsing and web chat. Now, as you can imagine, the deeper the engagement goes, the better results we're going to see with co-browsing. So if you were to step it up and offer co-browsing with audio, and this could be either web audio or telephone, you see an 80% lift in online conversion. So much better conversion numbers when you add an audio element to co-browsing. And that makes sense because now you have an audible commentary along with the visual to really help somebody either complete an application or move to a purchase online. And finally, if you were to take it even a step further, if you were to have co-browsing and add video chat with it, we've seen our customers achieve a 138% lift in online conversion. So obviously, what this is showing us is that by creating essentially an in-person experience online, we're able to drive the actions that are most important to us. Again, whether it be conversion, which is what this data is showing, or even if it were to be around customer satisfaction. Using these same tools together, we've have data that shows that co-browsing and web chat lead to a 25% increase in customer satisfaction. Co-browsing and video chat lead to a 30% increase in customer satisfaction. So definitely shows tangible results in improving the customer experience. So at this point, that's really a high-level sort of explanation of our co-browsing solution. It's definitely a technology that I would recommend for all companies that are trying to really up their digital game and provide a better experience for their customers. I do want to open it up for any questions that anyone has here, but I also do want to let people know that if you're interested in learning more about co-browsing or would like to see what co-browsing looks like in action in real time, to please reach out to us to schedule a demo. We do provide live demonstrations of the co-browsing technology. You can get one just by going to salemove.com and clicking on request a demo. Somebody will get back to you pretty quickly and schedule that for you. So at this time, if you have any questions, please type them into the question and answer functionality here in the webinar. I'll pause for a minute, and if no questions do come in, we will call it a day, and I hope to see all of you guys and gals in future webinars. All right, so it does not look like any particular questions are coming in. So if you do have a question moving forward, you'll all receive an email with the recording of today's webinar. Just reply to that email and we'll make sure that we get somebody in touch with you to answer that question. So do want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, hope to see everybody at a future webinar. And thank you very much. Have a good day.